This video is sponsored by Bethesda. There are a ton of tips and tricks I have to share with you guys for Doom: The Dark Ages. A big tip is that you can basically skip the reload animation for something like the super shotgun, and once you have the parries down, it'll have you feeling like an absolute god for some of these closer ranged fights. Basically, if you shoot the super shotgun and then parry, or just block the next incoming attack, the reload is basically still happening while you parry or block in the background. It's just using your time more efficiently so that you can block or parry while it's reloading. You can shoot and then parry, and then by the time your weapon is ready to fire again, it's already reloaded. And once you get the hang of this, it's really not that hard to do, and the super shotgun is probably the strongest hitting close range weapon in the game. It turns some of these demons into Swiss cheese. When you get in close, enemies will completely change their tune and will typically start swinging on you. Some of them you don't even really want to get in close with until you really learn their attack pattern, but there's a specific enemy with a shield that will completely drop it once you get in close to start swinging at you. This makes it a lot higher risk but also more reward, since you get a ton of parry damage on them and can make the fights go a lot faster, especially with some of these enemies that like to jump on you and just absolutely go ham on you. Generally, for most enemies, I've found it a lot more beneficial to get in close and shoot whenever you're not parrying. You can basically stop any shot animation to parry. There's a pretty large window on it. Also, be careful where you use your sigils, because once you use it, it's gone. It doesn't matter if you reload a checkpoint or die. If you use all 3 sigils in your inventory and die, those sigils are gone. You can find more, but now you're doing that fight with none. So they're best to be used when you are very confident that you will win upon reviving, or when you just barely lost that fight, you were so close to winning and know that you're going to win when you respawn. By the way, if you ever see a sigil, but you're full on them, as in you have 3 out of 3 already, you're not going to be able to pick up another one until you lose one, and they don't count as collectibles towards your progression, but you should still go over to it. Do whatever you have to do to get where it is, wherever you're seeing it from, because I'd say at least 50% of the time it's located in a secret area. And those secrets do count toward that little collectible tracker on the map. I recommend playing the game without trying so hard to check every nook and cranny for things like collectibles, largely because what Doom: The Dark Ages does great is it lets you go back into chapter select, reload that chapter, and not only is all of your collectible progress still there, but you keep all of your weapons and your items from wherever you're at in the story. So if you're on chapter 20, but go back to chapter 1, you still have all of your weapons, upgrades, and gear that you had at chapter 20. The only thing is that you have to redo the mission, obviously, but the map is also recovered with fog. And I'm not saying that you have to play through that entire level in order to get your missing percent to equal up to 100% completed. You can start that mission and then you say you're at 99% completion and you just need to complete one missing mission challenge. You can complete that challenge and then just quit. When you're back at the main menu, now you will have 100%. If you're missing an upgrade item and you grabbed it, you can now quit and start another mission where that item will come along with you. Exploration is a key pillar of Doom: The Dark Ages, especially when looking for collectibles. If you are anywhere near a secret or gold or collectible, it'll mark it on the map. If you find something locked behind a gate, just look at the map. Is there a tunnel? Is there a blue wall? That means you can climb it. If you see just a flat wall coming from a piece of ground, that's where you're able to mount up there. Is there something orange? That means you can throw your shield at it to break it and probably open up a gate. If it's blue, you also throw your shield at it to pull something up. If it's green, you can throw your shield at it to hurl yourself over. If you cannot find a way, continue on, and that path is probably coming soon. Nothing is missable since, like I said, you can come back through chapter select, but the only way you have to do that is if you progress to the point where you get that yellow door icon as your objective. Once you go down there, that's when, if you did miss anything before that, you'll have to come back through that chapter select. Doom: The Dark Ages adds a new feature that allows you to tailor your gameplay experience to how you want to play. For me, I love playing on the hardest difficulty setting, and I began a playthrough on Ultra Nightmare difficulty for a bit of a challenge. However, I realized that by using the sliders, I can adjust even a setting like Ultra Nightmare, which is like the pinnacle of difficulties for these games, to make it how I want it to be while playing. Same goes for someone playing on any other setting. You'll come across this as you're starting your game. It's hard to miss, but you can use these sliders to make the game as approachable as you want it to be for your playstyle, or if you're like me, way harder than Ultra Nightmare alone does. If you think the game is too hard or you just want to relax while you play, you can also use these settings to make it a lot easier. It's really up to you to make the experience whatever you want it to be. Like, look at this. The parry window on Ultra Nightmare by default is set to 3 bars, about medium-ish. You can drop it 2 more times to 1 bar so that your parries have to be extremely precise, or you can make it bigger to make it easier. Enhanced targeting makes it so that you can get away with being less accurate, and empowered attacks makes it easier to interrupt enemy attacks. Ultra Nightmare by default has you receive 200% damage. You can increase that still to a whopping 500. You can drop the damage that you do to demons to 50% so that you deal half the damage as you do even on the hardest difficulty, or you can increase it so that you deal 1000% damage and just destroy everything you come across. You can increase the enemy aggression, their projectile speed, and even increase the game speed. The difficulty adjustments that you can make are huge. You can also change the difficulty sliders whenever you want in the pause menu while playing. And by the way, you know how I said you can go back to different chapters to continue getting the collectibles whenever you want? Well, you can also change the difficulty sliders for that level in chapter select, so you don't have to necessarily start a whole new game to try out a harder difficulty. You can just go to where you select the chapter, pick whichever one you feel like playing, and change the difficulty. It gives you the option right there at the bottom. I think this adds a ton of replayability, and if you pause the game and start the map from the beginning, that resets the collectibles in that chapter. That is like a completely fresh slate for that level, so do that at your own risk. If you don't ever want to lose progress on a level, do not click that. While we're talking about settings, you can also increase and decrease the HUD or the UI. The only downside to that is that it also brings down the Doomslayer facial animation icon, which I think is such a cool detail in this game, but you can even go into your settings and turn that icon into the classic version. It still changes based on the damage you're receiving and all of that. If you're someone who doesn't like looking back and forth and all over the place for incoming attacks, you can also set it so that you get a threat detector whenever there's an incoming attack. Your shield is your bread and butter in the Dark Ages. You can shield strike from a really long range, which makes the combat continue to feel really fast and engaging if you want it to be, so that you can virtually teleport between groups of enemies. You can instantly recall the shield at any time too. You don't have to sit there and wait for the shield to come back or wait for the animation of it to show back up, or finish sawing someone. You can instantly call it back to parry or rush charge them by just pressing the block button, which is right click on PC. And that makes your shield just instantly pop back up. Your shield is a parry machine. Anything green, you parry. You want to do your best to dodge orange attacks, or at least not block enough to where it fries your shield, because without your shield, you are incredibly vulnerable. It's fine to block the occasional attack that's about to hit you, but you want to do your best to dodge and avoid those. And I used to really sleep on the shield saw's stun ability. You can throw your shield if you want to just stop an enemy's attack before they fully launch it, or just let it sit there and stun them for what feels like forever. You get a really large window where the shield saw is stunning these enemies. You can also get some really nasty combos with this going, because like I said, you just click the block button to instantly call it back, and then shield bash them or another enemy, where you can then throw your shield again or hit them with something like the super shotgun. Just shield saw, click block to recall it, and then push towards them or someone else. Really, any shield upgrade is a must-have. Those are the first upgrades I would really make, because if you grab these upgrades and learn how to use the shield, you can really do good with any weapon. Like the Harvester upgrade. If there are a lot of smaller enemies around, and usually there are, after unlocking that skill, you can throw your shield at all of them to gain a damage buff for the shield charge, where you can then use that charge on any bigger enemies if they're around, and then shield saw them, and then shotgun them if they're even somehow still alive at that point. Explosives are OP, dude. Look at these hidden explosives. A lot of spots have these. Usually they're a little less hidden, and they let you easily clear a room. If you're trying to melt through everyone as fast as possible, keep an eye out for anything red. They just completely eviscerate anything around. It's totally fine to invest in your melee weapons. You'll eventually be able to upgrade everything by the end of the game. Plus, like I said, everything is replayable. But in my opinion, each melee weapon you unlock is better than the last, so those upgrades feel less important once you unlock the new one. I would personally upgrade your shield and a weapon or two that you enjoy using first. And one of the best weapons you come across in Doom the Dark Ages is the chain shot. I immediately fell in love with this weapon, but the biggest downside is its charge up time. It takes a second or two to fully charge, but once it does, it deals an incredible amount of damage. That's why I highly recommend grabbing the chain shot's first upgrade as soon as you can, or as soon as you have the gold for it, because it allows you to completely skip that charge time after a successful parry, making it a ton of fun to use in some of these closer ranged fights, despite it being a longer ranged weapon. I said your shield is your bread and butter in this game, but man, when it comes to the weapons, that's the super shotgun. This is like all reliable right here. It's only really good at close range, but it destroys anything in its way. The Impaler is like a sniper. Imp Stalkers die in a single headshot. Most other enemies only take a few headshots max. The first upgrade gives you Impaler ammo for essentially just doing anything with your shield. The shield saw, shield charge, or even just by parrying enemy attacks, you get ammo. And that's why I recommend picking salvage as your second upgrade, because it makes it so that every time you get ammo, your next shot deals more damage. So that next shot is almost always going to be buffed. But what makes it even better is with the third upgrade called Lobotomy, you get a charge towards your melee weapon regeneration for each headshot you do. And some of these melee weapons do crazy damage, man. But this upgrade for the Impaler is insane. You just keep hitting headshots in between melee strikes and you're unstoppable. I think without upgrades, the Shredder eventually becomes pretty mediocre, but with the Ricochet upgrade plus the increased rate of fire on the next level, it absolutely shreds everyone, making it one of the best weapons in the game. Plus, the third upgrade lets you use both of your first level options. Now you're using Pincushion, plus a shield throw detonates the projectiles. You should be switching weapons around for different situations, but those are the main weapons I stuck to throughout my playthrough, because after going through and testing all of them, they seem to do the most amount of damage, plus I've had just a ton of fun using them. Another tip that I almost forgot to mention, while looking at the collectible counter on the pause menu during the dragon missions, you might have collected all of the gold. It might say like 214 out of 214, but those small ships that you chase down and can destroy also give gold that isn't marked on that collectible screen. It's like unmarked or hidden gold. They give about 20 gold each. Destroying them does count towards some of the mission challenges though, and man, make sure you look at these from time to time in the level. If you plan on playing multiple times or don't mind going back in chapter select, it's fine, but my most consistent failure while playing this was finding every collectible thinking I got 100% on everything, and then at the end level screen, it tells me I got 99% because I forgot about these. Make sure in the mastery challenges you also scroll down to the right. I thought I had all of my mastery challenges done at one point because I thought they popped up as soon as you unlocked them, but it's in a set order. So you might have some that are only partially progressed, but you don't immediately see them on the list there. You can also pin them so you can see the progress while playing. And if you didn't know how to get mastery challenges, you get them for fully upgrading a weapon. Shield runes are also great. It's hard to really say one of them is the absolute best. The one thing I wish I knew sooner about these though is that you unlock them through story progression. For the longest time I felt like I was missing something, but no, you just have to wait. I also completely forgot about skins. I made it through like 19 chapters before I thought, oh yeah, didn't Eternal have some skins? So then I went to the main menu, went to extras, and there's the skins. For your Slayer, the Dragon, the Mech, and your weapons. The weapons are also able to be equipped during your gameplay whenever you want though. Maybe this is just me, but I did not know for the entire first playthrough that you could swap melee weapons and shield runes in the pause menu. I don't know why, but I thought that the shop was also the only place where you could swap those out. As I mentioned earlier, this video is sponsored by Bethesda. They sent me an early copy of Doom: The Dark Ages, which is out now on Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, PC, and PlayStation. While playing some of the past Doom games can be helpful to the context of Doom: The Dark Ages, it is a prequel to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, so it's totally fine to play without having any prior knowledge from the previous games. There's tons of secrets, collectibles, varying levels from very linear sections to bigger, almost open world type levels. You go from the first person Doomslayer gameplay that you might be familiar with, to a mech, to flying around on your dragon. You've got an absolute shit ton of weapons, plus the new shield. I highly recommend checking it out. I'm having a ton of fun playing it, and I'd say that same thing even if this wasn't sponsored, because I have been addicted to this game. But yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.